What is going on, guys? Craig1287 here. I'm bringing you a VR video. I haven't really done a commentary in a very long time, but I decided to definitely do a video that showcases some commentary to give you some context as to why I am uploading this VR video in particular. What you're seeing here is footage, a lot of footage actually. This first video is going to be 25 minutes-ish. And this is of a game called Vanishing Realms. Now, I've played a whole bunch of different VR things on both the Rift and the Vive. I've played, oh god, maybe a dozen different games, probably maybe more, if you count some of the different individual demos on something like the Lab, even more. But the reason I'm uploading this video is because I consider this Vanishing Realms. Now, some family members and myself, we went to the Renaissance Festival recently, and at that time, I had not played this game, Vanishing Realms. I had already purchased it and owned it, but I just hadn't gotten around to trying this VR game out. And so, because of going to the Renaissance Festival, it just kind of got me in that mood. I knew that the game was a fantasy kind of game in the vein of something like Zelda, not so much Skyrim, not hardcore RPG, where you're doing armor and creating your character, custom looks and stuff like that, but that it was more of a adventure game, an action-adventure game kind of like Zelda, but first-person and VR. So here you'll see some of the combat. And the visuals in the game, I do love the artistic direction that they're going. It's not hardcore, super duper realistic visuals, but not a lot of stuff on VR right now is, because of just the simple requirements to be able to run something in VR is already hard enough. To do hardcore, high polygon count, mesh, and high resolution textures, more so than they already have to be when you're this close to objects, is not easy. But I do love the kind of fantasy look that they're giving this game, and you'll see here as I'm just kind of going through the world. I want to make more videos just dedicated to this Vanishing Realms game. You saw the combat there for a little bit. Trust me, there's going to be more. It's not just all exploration and whatnot. This is a action-adventure combat game. But just the way that they, in their most recent patch, I don't know what it was like before. Again, I hadn't played it before this, but they've made some changes to the menu system, to the inventory system that you see there. I love it. It feels very intuitive. The way that you look down at like your waist, where your belt would be. You've got the two different backpacks. I don't know if there's a limit to how much you can hold. I don't really care too much. Again, this game's not too hardcore. But yeah, see how I just get to my key? You just kind of move your hand over your belt, and then that expands it, and you just select the item that you want. Very minimalistic on how many times you have to actually click and pull the trigger. And here you channel your inner Link as you smash pots and barrels and boxes. But everything is just, it's very satisfying. The feedback that you get, both auditory and tactile, when you're getting that rumble from the controller, and just everything just feels very satisfying. Picking up all the gold and loot in this, just, oh man, it gets your endorphins really flowing through your brain at this point. It's very satisfying, very, very fun loot, even though it's not a loot game kind of like Diablo. But just, I love the look of this room when you know, the torch is very handy. But I just love the darkness, being in this dark atmosphere in VR. It's very, it adds a nice unsettling feel to it. But there's so much I want to say about this game, and I already know I've kind of been jumping around trying to keep up with where we are visually, what you're seeing, but it's hard. I don't really finish many of my thoughts. But like here, you see some of the puzzle, like this thing right here. I know that's a loot that I want to get, but I can't get into the water. I can't teleport into the water. And as you'll see here in just a bit, what I try is actually walking to the edge of my chaperone. You can't see the chaperone field, but this is like right up next to my couch. off frame a bit, and I try to just teleport there so that I can walk through and clip through the environment. This is the first game that's done that, where it actually prevents you from clipping through certain areas. I really do like that, because what I was trying to do was, you could say, would have been an exploit, but they've prevented me from doing this exploit that you can do in some other games. They have another feature in the game that you'll see at some point. The game has the chaperone field that you can see when wearing the headset, the blue grid that kind of places. Oh, and you see here, I finally am able to get it. Very, very simplistic puzzle, but again, this is a launch title for a completely new method of interacting with a game, so you shouldn't expect too much depth. Or complexity, I guess, difficulty. So yeah, see, I've already lost track of where I was talking about. You can see the chaperone, but the game will, at points, if you get too far away from what it considers to be the center of the room, which at one point, when I said I was testing the chaperone bounce, it didn't do it. I think it only does it in combat. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Right here. It says, please move to room center. If I look down, you can see, I don't think I do look down. Maybe, yeah, I don't look down. But it has a whole bunch of arrows pointing you, and then there's a green circle where it knows is the room center. And then you push the menu button, the button that is located above the trackpad. You push that, and it just gets you right back into the game. At first, that really, really pissed me off, because I was all like, I've got chaperone system. Why are you doing that? But then I remembered why I'd never played this game. And I really wanted to destroy these pots. I wish there was more environmental interaction with the game, but again, that's something that will come down the line. I remember the reason I hadn't played this game yet was because I started out with my VR in the smaller room that you can kind of see there in the background of my camera feed, and there was a whole lot of objects that were in my way. Now, with shooters and stuff, that wasn't too big of a problem. With racing games, that was really not big of a problem. But with this, because of the swinging motions of the sword and other weapons that you get in this, I knew that I would definitely end up hitting a lot of things, especially the fan, which had already been hit, and that just wouldn't work. So I realized that. And you can see the TV there in the background, the 60-inch TV. It's a pretty large TV, and I was pretty liberal with most of my border when I created the new chaperone safe zone. I actually want to further expand it and be even more liberal with how it is near the couches. But when near that TV, a very expensive TV, I was not liberal. I was very conservative with how much space I had between. But even then, there were times when I was playing this. Oh, and here dodging these arrows is very cool. And here, I think maybe here I do look down. Yeah, see, there's the arrows telling you need. But I'm already mostly in it. I don't really know why it triggered there. But again, I thought it was annoying at first, but yeah, and then I realized, it's preventing you from breaking something, because you are swinging. You can see my hand is getting extended. Here, I don't know what way I'm facing, and so I'm very uncomfortable. I'm not that trusting yet with the chaperone system, and I couldn't remember what direction I was facing. I didn't know if at this point if I was facing my TV, and I really did not want to hit that TV, because that's costly, both to the damage on the TV itself, but also possibly to the Vive controller, though these things are pretty darn durable. So what you're about to see here is kind of another puzzle. Not really, but it's trying to figure out how the way that this game. Again, I want to do a video that showcases more of the gameplay elements of this game, but I guess give a little bit of a hint. The game does a good bit of what the Zelda games do, in which they introduce you to a problem. Here it was the guy, the archer dude, and I couldn't just run up and smack him with the melee that I've already had for a while. He is physically on there's the gap there between them. And here I try to see if I can get around to smack him now that I've got a shield. But so the game introduced a problem. There's a ranged guy attacking me. I don't have any way to kill him, and I also at the time didn't have any way to block his attacks. I just had to physically dodge his attacks. But now it's given me access to a shield, and I also found, oh, there's a ladder. So I'm assuming that I'm going to eventually, be able to flank the guy and get closer to him. So it does a very Zelda-esque way to introduce you to the new tools, weapons, mechanics of the game. It introduces you to a problem. It doesn't let you quite yet fix the problem. You just kind of avoid the problem somewhat, and then eventually you get the tool that can help solve the problem, and it allows you to actually go about using this tool. So I really like that approach to the game, to the way that it introduces all the different weapons. Not all the different weapons, but most of the weapons so far. You eventually get a wand. In this gameplay, in this video, you will see me getting the bow at one point. I don't know if there's a crossbow in the game, but I do get the bow. There is a maul, or a hammer, a one-handed hammer that you can use with the shield. So here now I'm actually getting to use this shield. And so yeah, there's a hammer. There's multiple swords. You can dual wield swords or just one-handed melee weapons in general. I imagine you could dual wield a hammer and a sword, and that is amazing. That is the real true point at which I realized that how much fun I'm going to love this game, and in the future of RPG first-person kind of melee combat games. I just had a blast. The second part will be coming soon, and I actually plan to make. I guess I'll make a bunch of videos, not 100, but a bunch of videos of this game. And here's where I really start getting to experience the combat with the shield, being able to wait for those enemy attacks, seeing those weak spots. Not weak spots, but those openings. It's very boxing or MMA-esque. Part of it is watching your opponent and looking for when they're going to attack, how they're going to attack. Are they going to attack me, their low left, their low right? Are they going to go for a jab? Things of that sort. So I'm looking for how they're going to attack so that I can parry or block or dodge or whatever. But I'm also looking for their openings that they leave themselves open to, and I really enjoy that. I do not care much for watching boxing and MMA and that kind of stuff, but holy crap, if EA Sports, it's in the game, if you guys remember that kind of stuff, if they released a boxing game or an MMA game, I would love to play that in VR and have that sense of going 1v1 against enemies. And in this game, it's not all 1v1. There's a lot of times where you're taking on multiple opponents, and the flanking, holy crap, it will kill you real quick. But yeah, just that aspect of fighting against someone and looking for those weak spots, look for those openings that they leave themselves open to. Watching them, watching their movement, seeing how they move, seeing how they attack. And just something about that is really, really. Oh, and this block right here. Check this out. That moment. Yeah, there's a lot of other really cool moments where I get to use my shield. And finally, I get down here and I can actually attack this. Now, see, he has a crossbow, so I imagine there is a crossbow in the game that I will eventually get access to. And these guys they're so short, and their bow and then their helmet block so many of your attacks, so you really got to go for those face attacks. I tried to do swing attacks on him, which wasn't really being successful, and so I noticed I needed to do jab attacks more to actually hit him in the face. And even then, he will duck, lower his head to block that. The way you take on all the different enemy types, it's you can't just do the same kind of thing. And there was a patch that not only did the changes to their inventory system, but at first people were doing the kind of the Wii approach, where you just kind of hold your arm out and wobble it. You just kind of waggle your hand around, and it ends up smacking the enemies like hundreds of times. That happened at first, but they patched it to where they increased the amount of momentum that you actually have to build up before you can actually consider a hit. And here, see here, I'm using the bow and arrow, unlimited arrows. I don't think there's a limit to my quiver supply, and which is fine. I'm okay with that. But the bow mechanics are not the smoothest, in my opinion. I really enjoyed the way that the lab handled it, the Valve free game that you can download for the Vive. I really liked the bow mechanics in that. In this one, the way you pull the bow back, it doesn't actually seem like you have to pull it. And here it was cool being outside. It was just, again, the visuals are not that high resolution, and that the geometry, polygon count is not that insanely high, but still, just being in this world in VR is really cool. So here, you can see I'm trying to pull the arrow back, but I realize at one point you can just kind of have your hand a little far back, and once you pull the trigger, it'll auto pull it back a bit for you. I don't like that. I do want you to actually have to notch the arrows and then start to pull back. And if they gave you more room right now to fully pull back the bow, you don't have to pull it back that far. And then the reloading of it would be really cool if you actually had to like maybe pull it out of a quiver to where the reload time is tied to your movements. Right now it just kind of instantly, after a few seconds of shooting, there's that moment where you're kind of clicking, click, 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 because you're wanting to go ahead and notch a new bow into the string, but there's nothing there. And so there's that sense of like, well, what if I actually could not grab an arrow faster than this? You know, like Legolas does. See here, I hit his helmet. Very difficult guys to hit. Hit his helmet again. And so yeah, what if I actually, you know, if on my end, on my personal, physical, real world end, we're able to grab a new arrow and notch it faster than what the game does. That's one of the things I'm really excited for. You know, a lot of shooters are trying to do that, where you don't just hit R to reload or X or square, or, you know, on a Xbox and DualShock gamepads. And you actually there's more user input into the reload system for modern day weapons shooters. Not entirely, but there's more on your end. It's not just hit one button, guy reloads for you. And I'd love to see that more in this fantasy setting of actually reloading my bow and having to do more of the steps. And you've seen me pick these ruby chalices up. I don't know what the purpose of them is. Does it give me... I don't know if it's giving me increases to stats. It might be. I think it might be increasing my mana capacity, perhaps. Maybe. I don't know. But I'm going to keep looking for them and collecting them anyways. I like that sense of you know, tomb raiding and switching. So I like that. But what else can I talk about without... I could talk about this game so much right now. I really have... This is the first gaming experience in VR, well, specifically the Vive. I mean, Lucky's Tale feels like a very polished game that, you know, you get hours of usage out of going through it. For the most part, the same is true for Project Cars. That feels like a pretty traditional non-VR game that you could play for dozens of hours, hundreds of hours even. And it is. You can play it in non-VR. What else? Eve Valkyrie has that kind of more traditional gaming experience in terms of its gameplay content, the amount of content. But on the Vive side, a lot of the things have really just been sort of demos. And here, look, I just kind of, you know, thought, oh, this tree is kind of down, and I feel like I should check to see it. And that's just that sense of looking in a VR space is very cool. To find these hidden little bits right there, but keep getting, you know, losing my train of thought. Man, I really lost my train of thought. So yeah, I mean, just I could. What was my train of thought? I'm just so entranced in the VR stuff, in this VR space. I really wish I could remember what I was talking about. Well, I hope you guys are at least enjoying the gameplay at this point, getting more into the combat while I try to remember what I was talking about. I don't think I was still talking about some of the shortcomings with the bow mechanic. Oh, I do want to mention the HUD. The HUD is very minimalistic. Obviously, you can see some damage values and enemy health and whatnot. But right now, you know, there's nothing. There's nothing on screen unless I look down at my my waist, at my feet, and that's where you can see your. Oh, I see. Yeah, that does kind of increase like my mana and such. Whenever I get hurt, it pops. See here, I pick up gold and mana. Anytime any value changes, it hovers up in front of you to where you can actually see it while looking up. You see the gold and the mana slowly moving back down out of my view. It keeps this minimalistic HUD, but at any point I can look down to see those values, but they never change. But if I ever get hurt, then I see my health value, the changed health value, as it pops up a little bit in front of me, more into my field of view, and then slowly lowers back down to my waist. If I pick up gold, I see the new value, and it slowly lowers down. So you get to see values when they change, and they get slowly moved back out of your field of view, and keep that clean HUD, which is very important for, you know, being immersed into the environment. And here I'm trying to shoot this guy, and his shield is just covering. These guys actually seem to adapt the AI. All right, I just switched to now talking about the AI, and already within like a few seconds, I'm now going to switch on to another thing. The game itself is the company is Indimo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. INDIMO space Labs. Indimo Labs, technically LLC, and the head person at this Indimo Labs is Kelly Bailey, who was a sound design. He worked. He was a senior game design of sound and music at Valve when they were working on Half-Life. He also did some work on Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1. I believe he even worked on Counter-Strike Global Offensive for a bit. I think he also did some Portal. So yeah, he did sound design primarily, which is interesting, seeing him going into and making a full... And this guy, I don't know where this enemy went. I ended up finding them, I think, eventually, but I don't know what happened there. That might have been a bug. I don't know for sure. Yeah, so sound designer, and this individual left Valve and is making this game. So there was a AI. The AI in the game, you know, even though this person has a sound design background, I mean, obviously the combat mechanics and whatnot, I feel like they're very solid, especially as a launch title for a completely new platform. But the AI, the way it adapts to your attacks, it could just be a placebo effect. I don't know. But I'll try to attack people. You saw earlier I was fighting the guys with the shields, and I kept using my right hand, holding the sword, to kind of jab at their back. And then they would raise their shield up and prevent me from being able to do those kind of attacks. And it feels like they actually do a pretty darn good job of identifying. And here you'll see a sort of boss fight. Encountering this big dude with a ball and chain kind of thing. And you saw there my health value kind of popped up. Rewind it if you need to. And just the animations, the way that and you can obviously tell that the enemies are very large, because that just makes sense for spotting, for hitting weaknesses and seeing their movements, which is how I know, you know, when I see them doing that spin. And here I am gonna walk back into the middle of the room. Again, it is handy so I don't break anything. But yeah, their animations are very exaggerated. They're slowed down. Obviously, this is not be the speed that people would move in real life. But you know, I like that. It's got a nice little character to it, I guess. Its own little style. But and see, here I'm at 6 health, and so I realize I really gotta start dodging these guys' attacks and whatnot. So But yeah, the animations are fantastic for identifying how an enemy is going to attack and where they're going to leave themselves vulnerable. And then the AI, the way it this guy, he actually didn't change his AI too much, but I guess he's just kind of that big dumb brute. His movement was a lot more slower and more predictable. But the other guys with the small shields, they definitely keep you on your toes and make you have to change up your style of attack. So I think here I finally defeat him, and this is approaching the end of the video, so I actually didn't plan to talk the whole time, but as always I end up talking far more than I need to. So I hope you guys have really enjoyed this gameplay of Vanishing Realms, my favorite VR experience so far. Look out for part 2, and in all likelihood more parts that show the rest of the game. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. Have a good one. Ta-ta.